Now, we have been saying here in the Church of God since the year 2000. We started the website in 1999. We started to produce videos. And in 2000, we have been saying since then till now, that the European Union is going to break apart. We have been saying that NATO is going to collapse. And how do we know this? Because we see it in the Bible prophecies. Now you can look at our video channel, you can go to our YouTube channel, and you can search for the 3 videos I did on what is the prophetic beast of prophecy. And we go through all the prophecies in detail, and we show you that we are at the 6th head of the beast of Revelation, the 17th chapter. And the Apostle John was projected forward into time to our day today, and he said that the 6th head, one is, and that's our time right now. And they are portrayed as mountains. Now, mountains rise, peak, and fall. Now, it began, this 6th head, with the Italian and German nationalism that took place in the 1870s with King Victor Emmanuel and William I of Prussia. And these nations rose and peaked during the time of World War II, the Axis powers between Hitler and Mussolini and the Vatican, that Axis power that took place in World War II. And it was a world dominating power, and the Allies came and the Russians came and broke up that alliance, and now we're on the downward slide of that mountain called the EU, the European Economic Community, which is really a Nazi Plan B. As we have said, and as we have proved in the booklet that I'm going to offer you in today's program, we have been saying that the European Economic Union is actually a Nazi Plan B, and that before Hitler shot himself, they were planning a European Economic Union. I want to read you this from an article by Vernon Coleman. He says here, in 1936, Hitler told the Reichstag, it is not very intelligent to imagine that in such a cramped house like that of Europe, a community of peoples can maintain different legal systems and different concepts of law for long. Hitler's pal Mussolini, the father of fascism, said in 1933 that Europe may once again grasp the helm of world civilization if it can develop a political unity. Oswald Mosley, England's leading fascist in the 1930s, also supported the idea of a European Union. In 1941, Walter Funk, Hitler's economic minister, launched the European Economic Community, the EEC, to establish a single European currency. Hitler's plan was to integrate the European economy into a single market. 1945, Hitler's master plan, captured by the Allies, included a scheme to create an economic integration of Europe and to found a European Union on a federal basis. The Nazi plan for a federal Europe was based on Lenin's belief that federation is a transitional form towards a complete union of all nations. And then he says at the end, the European Union is Hitler's bastard love child. So, obviously, this was a Nazi Plan B, and when Germany fell, the old Nazis there took off their Nazi uniforms and put on business suits and started the European Economic Community.
King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that troubled him, and Daniel the prophet came to explain what that dream meant. At first he saw a head of gold, and that was the Chaldean Empire, his empire. After that came the arms of silver, and that was the Persian Empire. After that empire came the torso of brass, and that was the Greco-Macedonian Empire. And after that empire came the 2 legs of iron, and that was the Roman Empire. After this came the part potter's clay and part iron, which is NATO and the EU in our modern day. And then the iron mixed with miry clay. That is the last resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire that will fight Christ at his coming. For more details, log on to our website at britishisrael.ca and download your free booklet, What is the Beast of Revelation? Free of charge, off our website, britishisrael.ca.
Now, the Church of God, we have been saying this for years, that Germany will be the imperial power in Europe, that Germany is the beast of Bible prophecy. And we have been saying this for years, and many critics have ridiculed and laughed at the Church of God, but the Church of God went on, and they continue to say that Germany is going to be the beast of Bible prophecy, and the woman will ride that beast, and it will be a 10-nation combine, possibly called a United States of Europe. And everybody said, way back in the 1950s and 60s, that there is no way that Germany is going to rise again. And yet, here is Germany, at the head of Europe, and is implementing austerity measures, and if you cannot pay, well, then we will take assets. Germany is going to regain total power in Europe, as we see in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. Book of Revelation, 17th chapter. Here it says, and let's start in verse 9. It says, "Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth." So the woman sits on the 7 mountains. When we see this back in Daniel, the 7th chapter, where the little horn, which is the woman, plucks out 3 by the roots, and then reigns with the last 7. And these horns are kingdoms. And it says the same thing here about the mountains. It says here, verse 10, "And there are 7, and they are 7 kings." So the mountains are kings, or kingdoms. A king represents his kingdom. 5 are fallen, and 5 have fallen with, Otto the Great, Napoleon, Charlemagne, Justinian, and the Habsburgs. 5 are fallen. 1 is, and that is our time right now, the 6th head. It peaked during the time of Hitler and Mussolini, and now we're on the downward slide, and we're in the EU, the European Economic Community, which is a Nazi blueprint, a Nazi idea implemented on Europe by the old Nazis when they took off their uniforms, went into power, and implemented the European Economic Community. So 1 is, and we're on the downward slide, and the other is not yet come. This is the last resurrection of the old Roman Empire, and when it cometh, he continues but a short space. Now notice this last head of the beast, this last resurrection in verse 12. It says, "And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, and which have," now this corresponds with Daniel the 2nd chapter, of the 10 toes at the bottom of the image of Daniel 2, we see 10 toes mixed with miry clay, which we'll get into in a minute. These are the same 10 kings, the 10 toes, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And who is that beast? In Old Testament prophecies, we see that that beast is Germany, the Assyrian. And we have identified the Assyrians today as Germany. And you can read online our booklet, Germany in Prophecy, and you can get full detail on that. "These have 1 mind, and shall give their power and strength to the beast." Why would they give their power and strength to the beast? Is it because of these austerity measures that no one can repay? Is Germany coming in and taking assets? Or the nations just give up and say, well, okay, we owe you so much money that let's just have an alliance and you can control this nation. They give their power and strength to the beast. What is the power of a king? Well, it's total power. It's your economic and military power. And if they owe so much money to the Germans, well, then they will give their strength and power to the beast. And then it says, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. So this last resurrection of the Roman Empire, this seventh head, after the sixth head is going to collapse, which is the EU and NATO. When they collapse, the seventh head is going to rise, and it's going to mix itself with the miry clay. It says here, now, as we have shown in other broadcasts and sermons and our booklets, that there are two phases. There is the potter's clay phase that we read of in verse 42. Then there is the miry clay phase. The potter's clay phase is NATO and the EU, the sixth head of the beast. This miry clay phase is the seventh and final resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire. And we have identified these miry clay nations as the Black African, North African nations. It says here, whereas thou sawest, verse 43 of Daniel 2, iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Now it's interesting that all these migrants from Africa are going into Europe. Europe is up in arms. They don't know what to do with these refugees. They don't even have room. They don't even have the money to tend to these refugees. They don't know what to do. Are they going to start European colonization in Africa once again? This is what the Bible seems to indicate here. It says that they, the iron, shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That's the Black African nations. Are they going to colonize Europe again so that they can bring these refugees back and take care of them and have this mixture of the iron nations with the miry clay nations? This is what the Bible seems to indicate. But they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron is not mixed with miry clay. So these alliances are going to be loose, and they are going to stay together, but they are going to be very, very loose, and of course they're not going to agree with everything due to culture, religion, and so on. And it says in verse 44, and in the days of these kings, the 10 kings, this corresponds to the 10 kings in Revelation the 17th chapter. In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. Obviously, this is the second coming of Jesus Christ, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. That is the second coming of Jesus Christ. Exactly what we read here in Revelation, the 17th chapter. So the sixth head is coming to an end. We have been saying since 2000 that the European Union is going to break apart. At the time when all these so-called televangelists have been saying that the European economic community is the coming beast of prophecy, the last resurrection of the Roman Empire. And we have been saying since 2000, we started the website in 1999, but in 2000 we said, when we started the videos, that the European Union is going to collapse. And this Greek exit could be the beginning of the collapse of the euro, the end of the sixth head, and then out of this chaos is going to come the seventh and final resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire. Now we're seeing, as I mentioned in the last video, the Pope is singing sweet songs, sweet melodies, as it says in the prophecy of Tyre in Isaiah the 23rd chapter, talking about the climate control and appeasing to all the masses and becoming very, very liberal and saying to people, it's okay if you're this and that, whatever lifestyle you're in, we accept you, and so on, singing sweet melodies and songs, preaching our gospel. And they also signed concordat with the Palestinians, another treaty that they just signed, as it says in Isaiah the 23rd chapter, that they shall commit fornication with the nations once again. till eventually it'll make one more concordat with this beast, as it says, the woman sits on all 7 mountains. It'll make one more treaty with the beast, and it is at that time that it'll be the final head of this Roman Empire beast, and this will fight Christ at his coming. I want to offer you this free booklet, What is the Beast of Revelation, free of charge. You can download it off our website, britishisrael.ca. That's british-israel.ca. Now we'll also put the link underneath this player on the YouTube channel as well, and you can download it directly from there. This is Peter Salemi saying goodbye, friends, and I'll see you here next time on the Watchman program.